The rain pounded mercilessly against Emma's windshield as she navigated the dark backroads toward home. 12 hours into what should have been an 8-hour shift at County General had left her drained, her scrubs still bearing the evidence of a particularly difficult trauma case. All she wanted was a hot shower in her bed. Then she saw him, a small figure stumbling along the roadside, drenched and disoriented. A child, alone in the storm, bleeding. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Emma slammed on the brakes, her nurse's instincts overriding every warning bell about stopping on deserted roads at night. She threw the car into park and grabbed her emergency medical kit from the trunk. The boy couldn't have been more than 7 years old. Dark hair plastered to his deathly pale face, his expensive clothes torn and muddied. Most alarming, it was the blood seeping through his shirt. "Hey there," Emma called softly, approaching slowly with her hands visible. "I'm a nurse. Can I help you?" The child's head snapped up, his eyes wide with terror, ready to bolt despite his obvious injuries. Emma recognized the look. She'd seen it in abused children brought into the ER, that haunted wariness that broke her heart every time. "I'm not going to hurt you," she promised, kneeling in the mud to appear less threatening, rain soaking through her already damp scrubs. "You're bleeding. Will you let me help?" The boy swayed on his feet, his eyes struggling to focus. Shock. Emma diagnosed immediately. He needed medical attention fast. As if making the decision for them both, his knees buckled. Emma lunged forward, catching him before he hit the ground. His body burned with fever against her chest, yet he shivered violently. The front of his designer shirt was soaked with blood. Emma's training kicked in as she carried him to her car, laying him across the back seat. Under the dome light, she cut away his shirt to reveal a jagged knife wound across his ribs, not deep enough to be life-threatening but serious enough to require immediate care. "What's your name, sweetie?" she asked, applying pressure with gauze from her kit. The boy's eyes fluttered. "Leo," he whispered, then his gaze sharpened with unexpected lucidity. "Please, they'll find me." "Who will find you, Leo?" Emma asked, her stomach tightening. "Bad men," he managed before his eyes rolled back. Emma's mind raced. This wasn't a simple case of a lost child. The expensive clothes, the knife wound, the terror in his eyes. This was something far worse. The hospital was the logical destination, but it was also the first place anyone looking for him would check. Her apartment was only 10 minutes away. She had supplies there, could stabilize him, call the police once they were safely inside. Decision made. Emma pulled back onto the deserted road, checking her rearview mirror obsessively. "Stay with me, Leo," she murmured, reaching back to check his pulse when she stopped at a red light. Steady but weak. The boy mumbled something incoherent, his small hand clutching the edge of her seat. Emma's apartment building was mercifully quiet as she carried Leo, wrapped in her rain jacket, through the side entrance, avoiding the security cameras in the main lobby. Her third-floor walk-up had never seemed so far away. By the time she shouldered open her door, her arms ached and Leo's fever had spiked dangerously high. She laid him on her couch, working quickly to clean and properly dress his wound. It looked like a defensive injury, as if he'd raised his arm to protect himself from something worse. The thought made her sick. Who would do this to a child? While she worked, Emma talked softly, hoping her voice would comfort him even in his semi-conscious state. "You're safe now, Leo. I've got you. I'm going to take care of you." His eyes flickered open, focusing on her face with surprising intensity. "Are you an angel?" Despite everything, Emma smiled. "No, just a nurse. My name is Emma." "Emma," he repeated, testing the name. "They took me from school." His voice trembled, said they'd hurt my papa if I screamed. Emma's hands stilled. Kidnapping. This was a kidnapped child. "Leo, I need to call the police." Panic flared in his eyes. No police." He tried to sit up, gasping in pain. "They said they have people in the police. Please, they'll find me." Emma gently eased him back down. "Okay, no police right now. But I need to call someone, Leo. Your parents must be worried sick." Leo shook his head weakly. "Just Papa. Mama died when I was little." His eyes filled with tears. "Papa will be so angry. He told me never to leave with strangers." "This isn't your fault," Emma assured him, her heart breaking at his distress. "None of this is your fault." The child's eyes drifted shut, exhaustion finally claiming him. Emma checked his vitals one more time. Stable, but she'd need antibiotics to prevent infection. She'd have to call in a favor from Mia at the hospital pharmacy tomorrow. Emma placed a cool compress on Leo's forehead and tucked her softest blanket around him. In sleep, the wariness vanished from his face, revealing just how young he truly was. She brushed damp hair from his forehead, a fierce protectiveness surging through her. She should call the police, regardless of what Leo said. This was a kidnapping, a child in danger. But something held her back. The terror in his eyes when she'd mentioned authorities hadn't been the normal fear of a child in trouble. It had been genuine terror of something specific. Emma picked up her phone, then set it down again. One night. She'd give him one night of safety, let him rest and recover, and in the morning when he was stronger, they'd figure this out together. She'd call her shift supervisor and take a personal day. God knows she had enough. Unused sick leave accumulated. As she settled into the armchair beside the couch, prepared to watch over him through the night, Emma had no way of knowing that 20 miles away, the city was burning. Viktor Sokolov stood in the ruins of what had once been his enemy's safe house, the bodies of the men who dared to touch his son scattered like broken dolls around him. Blood dripped from his knuckles onto the concrete floor. He hadn't bothered with a gun. This, he'd wanted to feel. "Sir," his lieutenant Alexei approached cautiously. "We've interrogated the last one. They moved your son 3 hours ago. Small team, heading south on backroads to avoid detection." Victor's face remained impassive, but something deadly flickered in his ice-blue eyes. At 42, he was in his prime, a self-made man who'd clawed his way from the slums of Kiev to control half the eastern seaboard's underground economy. His suits were custom-tailored to conceal the scars of his rise to power. His hands, now stained with blood, usually signed multi-million-dollar deals. But none of that mattered now. For the first time since his wife's death 6 years ago, Viktor Sokolov was terrified. "Find him," he said, his accent thickening with emotion. "Burn everything, kill everyone. I don't care. Find my son." Alexei nodded, already barking orders into his radio. Viktor walked outside into the rain, tilting his face to let it wash away the blood. Leonardo had been taken 14 hours ago, snatched from his private school in a meticulously planned operation. Viktor had known immediately who was responsible, the Castellanos, trying to gain leverage in territory negotiations. What they hadn't expected was Viktor's response. There would be no negotiations. Only annihilation. The morning brought pale sunlight and a decision Emma wasn't prepared to make. Leo's fever had broken overnight, but the wound needed proper medical attention she couldn't provide at home. She'd have to take him to the hospital, regardless of his fears. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Leo sat at her small kitchen table, drowning in one of her old university sweatshirts, picking at the scrambled eggs she'd made. He looked better. Some color had returned to his cheeks, but his eyes still darted to the windows at every sound. "These are the best eggs ever," he said politely, though he'd barely eaten 3 bites. Emma smiled, sitting across from him. Hospital cafeteria food sets a low bar, I guess. "Papa's chef makes eggs with fancy cheese and herbs," Leo offered, then his face crumpled. "I miss Papa. We need to call him, Leo," Emma said gently. "He must be looking for you." Leo's small shoulders hunched. "They took my phone, and I don't know Papa's number by heart. He said I should memorize it, but I didn't listen." "Do you know where you live? Your address? Your school name? Anything that could help us find him?" Leo nodded slowly. "I live in the big glass building downtown, the penthouse. Sokolov Tower." Emma froze, the mug of coffee halfway to her lips. "Sokolov? As in, Viktor Sokolov?" Even she, who paid little attention to local politics or business, knew that name. Sokolov Enterprises dominated the city skyline and newspaper headlines. Self-made billionaire, philanthropist, rumored to have connections that extended far beyond legitimate business. There had always been whispers. Leo nodded, suddenly looking proud. "That's my papa." Emma's mind raced. If Viktor Sokolov was Leo's father, this wasn't a simple kidnapping. This was potentially part of something much bigger, much more dangerous. The kind of danger that got innocent people killed. "Leo, we need to get you to your father right away." Before Leo could respond, a knock at the door made them both freeze. Emma's apartment was at the end of a quiet hallway. She never got unexpected visitors, especially not at 7 in the morning. "Hide," she whispered to Leo, pointing toward her bedroom. The boy scrambled from his chair, wincing at the pain from his injury, but moving remarkably quietly for a child his age. Emma approached the door cautiously. "Who is it?" "Delivery for Emma Hayes," came a man's voice. Emma frowned. She hadn't ordered anything. "Leave it at the door, please." "Need a signature, ma'am." Something about the man's tone raised every alarm bell in Emma's body. She glanced toward her bedroom where Leo had hidden, then back at the door with its flimsy chain lock. Her apartment suddenly felt like a trap. "Just a minute," she called, trying to sound normal while her heart hammered. She moved quickly to the kitchenette, grabbing her phone and the sharpest knife from the block. As she passed the breakfast table, she noticed Leo had left his half-eaten breakfast and the glass of orange juice. Evidence someone else was here. Emma swept them into the sink just as another, heavier knock rattled the door. "Coming," she called, trying to sound irritated rather than terrified. She approached the door again, noting the shadow visible beneath it. The delivery man was standing directly outside, not to the side as a normal delivery person would. Emma made a decision. She wasn't opening that door. Instead, she banged loudly against the wall and called out, "James, can you get that? I'm not dressed." There was a moment of silence from the hallway. She hoped the imaginary boyfriend gambit might give the man pause. It didn't. The next sound was unmistakable, the crash of a shoulder hitting her door with deliberate force. The chain lock snapped with the second impact. Emma was already moving, running for the bedroom where Leo was hiding. She heard the door crash open behind her as she slammed the bedroom door shut, shoving her dresser in front of it with desperate strength. "Leo!" she hissed. The boy emerged from behind her bed, eyes wide with terror. "The fire escape, now!" They heard heavy footsteps in her living room, then a voice. "Check every room. She's not alone." Emma shoved open the window leading to the fire escape, ushering Leo through it. The metal staircase was slick with morning dew, treacherous under their feet as they descended as quickly and quietly as possible. Leo moved with surprising agility despite his injury, clinging to Emma's hand. They had just reached the second-floor landing when Emma heard shouting from her apartment above. They'd been discovered missing. Abandoning stealth for speed, Emma swept Leo into her arms and ran down the remaining stairs, her nurse's athletic build serving her well as she carried the boy's weight. They reached the alley behind her building, just as she heard men bursting onto the fire escape above them. Emma didn't look back, running with Leo toward the street, toward people, toward safety. Her car was parked 2 blocks away. Too far. They'd never make it. Instead, Emma ducked into the coffee shop on the corner, the morning rush providing blessed anonymity, as she set Leo down and guided him through the crowd toward the bathroom in the back. "We need help," she whispered to him, locking the bathroom door behind them. "Is there anyone your father would send to find you? Anyone we can trust?" Leo's face brightened. "Alexei, Papa's right-hand man. He has tattoos on his neck, like a dragon. Papa would send him for sure." Emma fought back despair. A man with neck tattoos wasn't exactly someone she could easily identify or approach. Phone number? Address? Office location? Leo scrunched his face in concentration. "Papa's business card. It has his private line. I can call and tell him I'm safe." "Great idea, but where would we find?" "I have one," Leo interrupted, pride evident in his voice as he reached into his sock and pulled out a slightly damp but intact business card. "Papa says always keep one. Hidden. For emergencies." Emma could have kissed him. "Leo, you're brilliant." She pulled out her phone with shaking hands, dialing the number on the card. It rang once before being answered. Sokolov. The voice was deep, accented, and radiated such authority that Emma momentarily lost her words. I have your son," she finally managed. "He's safe. He was injured, but I'm a nurse, and where?" The single word cut through her rambling with laser precision. "Downtown coffee shop, the corner cup on 4th Street. But there are men looking for him. They broke into my apartment. They're dangerous." There was a brief silence then. "Stay exactly where you are. Don't move, don't talk to anyone. I'll be there in 5 minutes." "How will I know it's you?" Emma asked, but the line had already gone dead. Emma looked down at Leo, who was watching her with those unnervingly intelligent eyes. "Your dad's coming." Leo nodded solemnly. "They'll be sorry now." The certainty in his voice sent a brain chill down Emma's spine. Who exactly was Viktor Sokolov, that his 7-year-old son spoke with such confidence about retribution? They waited in that cramped bathroom, Emma periodically peeking out to ensure no suspicious men had entered the cafe. 3 minutes passed. 4. At exactly the 5-minute mark, the entire atmosphere of the coffee shop changed. Emma felt it even through the closed door. A sudden hush, then a buzz of whispers. She cracked the door open and immediately understood. 3 black SUVs had pulled up outside, and men in suits were positioning themselves at every exit. In the center of the cafe stood a man who could only be Viktor Sokolov. He was taller than she'd expected, broad-shouldered in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit that somehow made everyone else look underdressed. His face was all sharp angles, with cheekbones that could cut glass and ice-blue eyes scanning the room with predatory focus. A scar ran through his right eyebrow, the only imperfection in an otherwise devastatingly handsome face. Emma swallowed hard and opened the bathroom door wider. "Leo," she whispered, "is that your father?" Leo peeked around her legs, then his entire face transformed with joy. "Papa!" he cried, bursting past Emma and running across the cafe. Viktor Sokolov's expression changed so dramatically it was as if he'd become another person entirely. The coldness melted away as he dropped to one knee, catching his son in a fierce embrace. He murmured something in what sounded like Russian, pressing his face into Leo's hair, his powerful shoulders actually trembling. The cafe had gone completely silent, every patron frozen in place, witnessing this unexpected display of raw emotion from a man whose name was usually whispered with fear. Emma stood awkwardly by the bathroom, uncertain what to do. She was suddenly intensely aware of how she must look, still in yesterday's rumpled scrubs, hair a mess, exhaustion etched into her face. Viktor Sokolov looked up, his eyes locking with hers across the room. The tenderness she'd just witnessed vanished, replaced by something calculating and dangerous as he assessed her. With his son still clinging to him, he rose to his full height and approached her, each step measured and deliberate. Emma forced herself to stand her ground, though every instinct screamed to retreat. "You are the nurse," he stated when he reached her, his accent more pronounced now. It wasn't a question. Emma nodded. "Emma Hayes. I found Leo last night on Lakeside Road. He was injured." "She saved me, Papa," Leo interjected, looking up at his father with adoration. "She fixed my cut and gave me her bed and made me eggs and kept the bad men away." Something flickered across Victor's face, surprise perhaps, or suspicion. "You didn't take him to hospital, or police." "He begged me not to," Emma explained, suddenly feeling defensive. "He said it wasn't safe. I'm a trauma nurse. I could handle his injuries." Victor studied her with unnerving intensity, as if trying to see through her skin to her very motives. Why help him? Take this risk? The question caught Emma off guard. Because he's a child who needed help. What else would I do? For a moment, Victor seemed genuinely puzzled by her answer, as if kindness without ulterior motive was a foreign concept. Then Leo tugged at his father's sleeve. "Papa, the bad men came to Emma's house. They broke her door. She lost her home because of me." Victor's expression darkened. "These men? You saw them?" Emma nodded. "2, maybe more. They're probably still at my apartment." A shadow of a smile touched Victor's lips, though it held no warmth. "Not anymore." He turned to one of his men. "Alexei, take Miss Hayes' address. Send a team." The man with the dragon tattoo, Alexei, stepped forward, offering Emma a surprisingly respectful nod before taking down her information. Victor placed a hand on Leo's shoulder, then addressed Emma. "Again, my son needs proper medical attention. You will come with us." It wasn't a request, and Emma found herself nodding before she'd consciously decided to agree. As Victor guided them toward the door, his men forming a protective circle around them, Emma suddenly realized the enormity of what was happening. She was walking into the world of Viktor Sokolov, a world she knew nothing about except for whispered rumors and the inexplicable fear Leo had shown. Outside, Victor opened the door to the middle SUV, helping Leo inside before turning back to Emma. For a moment, he simply looked at her, as if trying to solve a puzzle. "You saved what matters most to me in this world," he finally said, his voice low and intense. "I won't forget this debt." As Emma climbed into the luxury vehicle, taking a seat beside Leo, who immediately grabbed her hand for comfort, she couldn't shake the feeling that her life had just irrevocably changed. For better or worse remained to be seen. But one thing was certain. She was now connected to Viktor Sokolov, a man who clearly operated by his own dangerous code of honor and justice. The doors closed with a solid thunk, sealing her fate as the convoy pulled away from the curb, leaving her old life behind. Viktor Sokolov's private medical facility occupied the entire top floor of a nondescript building that, from the outside, appeared to be just another corporate office. Inside, it rivaled any hospital Emma had ever worked in state-of-the-art equipment, immaculate surfaces, and staff who moved with military precision. The doctor attending to Leo was a stern-faced woman who introduced herself simply as Dr. Petrova. "The wound is clean, doctor," Petrova commented, examining Emma's handiwork with grudging approval. "You did well, considering the limitations." Emma stood awkwardly at Leo's bedside, acutely aware of Victor's presence behind her. He hadn't spoken during the examination, but she could feel his eyes tracking every movement, analyzing every interaction. "The antibiotics I started him on should prevent infection," Emma offered. "I had some samples from the hospital, doctor." Petrova nodded. "I'll continue the course. Add some stronger pain management. He'll need stitches properly done." Leo reached for Emma's hand, his small fingers surprisingly strong. "Will you stay?" The question hung in the air, loaded with implications Emma couldn't begin to unpack. Before she could formulate a response, Victor stepped forward. "Doctor, Petrova will begin treatment. Miss Hayes and I need to talk." Leo's face fell, but he nodded with a resigned maturity that broke Emma's heart. What kind of life had this child led, to accept disappointment so readily? "I'll come back afterward," Emma promised, squeezing his hand. "Be brave for a little longer." Victor led her to an office adjacent to the treatment room, closing the door with a soft click that somehow felt more final than a slam. The space was minimalist, but luxurious leather furniture, a desk of polished walnut, windows offering a panoramic view of the city. Emma suddenly became aware of her disheveled appearance again, standing in this immaculate room in blood-stained scrubs. "Sit," Victor said, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. Emma remained standing. "I'd rather know what's happening first. Who took Leo? Why were they after him? And why am I here instead of at a police station filing a report?" A flicker of something amusement, perhaps, crossed Victor's face. "You have courage, Miss Hayes. Not many people question me so directly." "I'm not afraid of you," Emma said, though the slight tremor in her voice betrayed the lie. "Then you are either very brave or very foolish." Victor moved to a cabinet, retrieving 2 crystal glasses and a decanter of amber liquid. "The men who took my son belong to the Castellano family. An organization in competition with mine." "Competition," Emma repeated flatly. "You mean rival criminal enterprises." Victor poured liquid into one glass, offering it to her. When Emma declined with a shake of her head, he shrugged and took a sip himself. "I am a businessman, Miss Hayes. Some of my business operates in gray areas of the law. Gray areas don't usually involve kidnapping children." "No," he agreed, his expression darkening. "That crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. The Castellanos will understand this very soon." The casual way he referenced what was clearly planned violence should have terrified Emma. Instead, she found herself thinking of Leo's wound, his terror, the way he'd trembled in her arms through the night. "Why am I here?" she asked again, softer this time. Victor studied her over the rim of his glass. "You saved my son when you could have walked away. You sheltered him, protected him, at great risk to yourself. Such actions deserve consideration. I don't want anything from you. Everyone wants something, Miss Hayes." Emma's exhaustion and stress finally caught up with her. "Fine. I want to go home, take a shower, and sleep for about 14 hours. I want to know my apartment hasn't been trashed by those men. I want to forget that the past 24 hours ever happened." Victor set his glass down. "Your apartment is currently being secured and repaired by my men. The damage will be addressed. As for forgetting," he shook his head slowly, "that is not possible now." Emma sank into the chair, suddenly too tired to maintain her defiance. "What does that mean?" "It means the Castellanos saw you with Leo. They know your face, your name. They know you're connected to me now." The implications hit Emma like a physical blow. "Connected to you? I'm not. I just found a child who needed help. And in my world, Miss Hayes, that creates a connection." Victor's voice was oddly gentle. "The Castellanos don't recognize such distinctions. To them, you're now under my protection, which makes you a potential target. Emma's mind raced. So what? I'm just supposed to upend my entire life because of some mafia vendetta? I have a job, patients who depend on me. Your employment at County General has been addressed. You're on extended paid leave family emergency. The casual way he'd rearranged her life without consent sparked a fresh wave of anger. You had no right. I had every right. Victor cut her off, steel in his voice. The moment you decided to help my son, our paths became intertwined. I protect what's mine, Miss Hayes. Always. Emma stood abruptly. I'm not yours. I did what any decent human being would do. I helped a child in need. That doesn't make me your possession. Victor rose as well, his height advantage more apparent as he moved around the desk to stand before her. Up close, the scar through his eyebrow was more pronounced, a reminder that this man had survived violence, perhaps inflicted plenty of his own. Not possession. He corrected. Connection. There is a difference. Before Emma could respond, a knock at the door preceded Alexei entering, his expression grave. Sir, we have confirmation. The Castellano warehouse by the river, the shipment is arriving tonight. Victor nodded. Prepare the team. We move at midnight. Alexei's eyes flicked to Emma, then back to his boss, a silent question in the glance. Miss Hayes will be staying at the penthouse. Victor answered the unasked question. With Leo. What? Emma interjected. No, absolutely not. I'm going home. Your home isn't safe. Victor stated flatly. The penthouse has security that would make the Pentagon envious. You'll stay there until this situation is resolved. And how long will that be? Victor's lips curved in a cold smile. That depends entirely on how cooperative the Castellanos decide to be. Emma recognized the implicit threat in his words. Whatever Victor had planned for tonight, it wasn't a peaceful negotiation. She should be horrified, should be running to the nearest police station. Instead, she found herself thinking of Leo's small body shivering with fever. The knife wound that had been meant to hurt, not kill a warning to a father delivered through his child. Leo needs stability, Victor continued, his voice softening. He trusts you. After what he's been through, that trust is valuable. It was manipulation, Emma knew, using her connection to Leo to keep her compliant. Yet she couldn't deny the pull she felt toward the boy, the fierce protectiveness that had awakened in her the moment she'd found him in the rain. One night, she conceded finally. I'll stay one night, until Leo is settled. Then we revisit this discussion. Victor inclined his head slightly, accepting her terms without agreeing to them. Alexei will escort you back to Leo. Dr. Petrova will have finished treating him by now. As Emma turned to leave, Victor spoke again. Miss Hayes. She paused at the door. Thank you for my son's life. That is a debt I cannot repay, but I will try. The sincerity in this. His voice caught her off guard. For a moment, she glimpsed the man beneath the polished, dangerous exterior, a father who had almost lost everything. I didn't do it for debt or gratitude, she said quietly. I did it because it was right. Victor's expression was unreadable. In my experience, people rarely act simply because it is right. Then you've known the wrong people, Emma replied, and left him standing there, staring after her with an expression of genuine puzzlement. The Sokolov penthouse occupied the top 3 floors of a gleaming tower in the heart of downtown. Emma stood in the massive foyer, trying not to gape at the soaring ceilings, the tasteful blend of modern and traditional Russian design elements, the subtle displays of wealth that spoke of old money rather than nouveau riche. Leo had fallen asleep in the car, exhausted from his ordeal and the medication. A woman introduced as Mrs. Petrova Doctor. Petrova's sister and Leo's nanny had carried him to his bedroom, with a tenderness that suggested deep affection. The chef will prepare dinner at 7, Alexei informed her, leading Emma through the main living area toward a hallway. Mr. Sokolov has instructed that you be given anything you require. These will be your quarters while you're here. He opened a door to reveal a suite larger than Emma's entire apartment. A sitting area with plush sofas, a bedroom visible through an archway, and a bathroom that could have housed a small family. There are clothes in the closet, Alexei continued. Mr. Sokolov had them delivered while Leo was being treated. If anything doesn't fit, let the staff know. Emma wanted to protest this presumption, but the thought of clean clothes overrode her pride. Thank you, she managed. Alexei hesitated, then spoke in a lower voice. What you did for Leo. I've served Mr. Sokolov for 12 years. I've never seen him as afraid as when Leo was taken. Emma looked up, surprised by this unexpected confidence. He will not forget this, Alexei continued, and neither will I. He touched his heart in a gesture that seemed instinctive, rather than performative. If you need anything, ask for me directly. After he left, Emma allowed herself the luxury of a hot shower, watching as Leo's dried blood swirled down the drain. The enormity of her situation hit her as she stood under the steaming water. 24 hours ago, she'd been a trauma nurse with a modest apartment and a predictable life. Now she was in the penthouse of a man who casually mentioned gray areas of the law while planning what was likely a violent assault on his enemies. The clothes in the closet fit perfectly: jeans, soft sweaters, even undergarments in her exact size. The precision of it was unsettling. How had Victor gathered so much information about her in such a short time? Dressed in clean clothes, Emma made her way back to the main living area, drawn by the sound of a child's laughter. She found Leo in the kitchen, sitting at a massive island while a chef in whites prepared something that smelled divine. Emma! Leo's face lit up when he saw her. Chef Anton is making pelmeni. They're my favorite. The boy looked remarkably recovered, his color good, eyes bright. Children's resilience never ceased to amaze Emma. How are you feeling? She asked, taking a seat beside him. Better. Leo showed her his side, where bandages peeked from beneath his pajama top. Dr. Petrova gave me special medicine. She says I'm very brave. You are, Emma agreed. Like Papa, Leo said proudly. Papa's not afraid of anything. Emma thought of Victor's face when he'd first seen Leo in the coffee shop, the naked fear and relief. I think even your papa gets scared sometimes, especially about you. Leo considered this, then nodded solemnly. When Mama died, Papa cried. But only once, when he thought I was sleeping. The casual mention of this intimate moment caught Emma off guard. Do you remember your mama? Leo's face softened. A little. She had yellow hair like sunshine. She sang to me in Russian. He looked up at Emma. Papa doesn't talk about her. It makes him sad. Before Emma could respond, Mrs. Petrova appeared, clapping her hands briskly. Dinner, then bed, little one. You need rest. Leo groaned but didn't argue. As they ate the delicious dumplings, Leo chatted about his school, his friends, his pet fish named Boris, normal child topics that seemed at odds with the circumstances of their meeting. After dinner, Emma helped tuck Leo into bed, a task Mrs. Petrova ceded with surprising willingness. His bedroom was every child's dream: spacious, with custom furniture including a bed shaped like a pirate ship, walls covered in hand-painted murals of forests and castles. Will you be here tomorrow? Leo asked as Emma pulled the covers up to his chin. I'm not sure, she answered honestly. It depends on what your papa decides. Leo's expression grew serious. Papa listens to me sometimes. I'll tell him you have to stay. Emma smiled, smoothing his hair. That's sweet, but it's complicated, Leo. Because of the bad men? Partly, she admitted. Papa will make them go away, Leo said with absolute confidence. Then you can stay forever. The certainty in his voice sent a chill down Emma's spine. Leo, what your papa does. Do you understand what his business is? Leo's eyes, so like his father's, met hers directly. Papa helps people who need help, and he punishes people who do bad things. It was the simplified worldview of a child, yet Emma wondered how much truth it contained. Before she could pursue the conversation, Leo's eyes were drooping, medication and exhaustion claiming him. Stay until I fall asleep? He murmured. Emma sat beside him, stroking his hair as his breathing evened out. When she was certain he was asleep, she leaned down and pressed a gentle kiss to his forehead, an instinctive gesture of affection she couldn't have explained if asked. She left his room, closing the door quietly, to find Alexei waiting in the hallway. Mr. Sokolov called, he informed her. He will not be returning tonight. The operation at the warehouse, Emma realized. Whatever violent retribution Victor had planned for the Castellanos was happening now. Is there anything you need before I leave? Alexei asked. Emma shook her head. I'll be fine. I'll stay with Leo. Alexei nodded, seemingly satisfied with this answer. The night staff is minimal, just security. For privacy. After he left, Emma found herself alone in the vast penthouse, silence settling around her like a physical presence. She wandered to the floor-to-ceiling windows, gazing out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Viktor Sokolov was exacting vengeance for his son's kidnapping. People would likely die tonight because of what had happened to Leo. Emma should feel horror, revulsion. Instead, she felt a complicated tangle of emotions she couldn't begin to unravel. Relief that Leo was safe, anger at those who had hurt him, and beneath it all, an unsettling recognition that in Viktor's position, she might make the same choices. The thought disturbed her deeply. Hours passed. Emma dozed on a sofa in the living room, unwilling to retreat to the guest suite in case Leo needed her. The sound of the elevator arriving jolted her awake. She sat up, disoriented, as Viktor stepped into the penthouse. He'd changed from his business suit into all black, utilitarian clothing that hugged his powerful frame. There was no visible blood on him, but Emma could sense the violence that clung to him like an invisible shroud. Their eyes met across the room. Neither spoke for a long moment. Finally, Viktor broke the silence. "Leo?" "Asleep," Emma answered. "His fever's gone. He ate well at dinner." Viktor nodded, moving to a bar cart and pouring himself a generous measure of vodka. He downed it in one swallow. "And the Castellanos?" Emma asked, surprising herself with the question. Viktor turned to face her, expression unreadable. "They have been persuaded to reconsider their strategy." Emma stood, wrapping her arms around herself. "Did you kill them?" "Some," he admitted without hesitation. "The ones directly responsible for harming Leo." He poured another drink. "Does that frighten you?" "It should," Emma said honestly. "But when I think about what they did to him, what they would have done..." She trailed off, uncertain how to finish the thought. Viktor studied her with that same intense focus he'd shown in his office. "You continue to surprise me, Miss Hayes. Most people in your position would be running for the door. Most people in my position haven't held your son while he shivered with fever from a wound inflicted by men who took him to punish you," Emma replied. Something flashed in Viktor's eyes, pain, guilt, anger gone so quickly she might have imagined it. "I've made many enemies," he said quietly. "It's the nature of my work, but none have dared touch to my family before. The Castellanos have ensured that none will dare again." He set down his glass and moved closer to her. Close enough that Emma could detect the faint scent of his cologne beneath the sharper smells of gunpowder and night air. "I meant what I said earlier," Viktor continued, "about debt. In my world, Miss Hayes, loyalty and obligation are currency more valuable than money." "I'm not part of your world," Emma reminded him. "Yet here you stand, in my home, having cared for my son, discussing violence without flinching." Viktor's lips curved slightly. "Perhaps you're more adaptable than you realize." Before Emma could respond, a small voice interrupted them. "Papa?" They both turned to see Leo standing in the hallway entrance, hair tousled from sleep. Viktor's entire demeanor transformed instantly, the dangerous edge vanishing as he crossed to his son and knelt before him. "Why are you awake, Moy Malish?" he asked gently. "Bad dream," Leo mumbled, leaning into his father's embrace. The men came back. Viktor gathered Leo close, murmuring something in Russian that sounded like reassurance. Over Leo's head, his eyes met Emma's, and in them she saw a wordless plea for understanding this. His love for his son was the core of who he was. Everything else, the violence, the criminal empire, the calculated ruthlessness, orbited around this central truth. Leo pulled back from the embrace to look up at his father. "Did you make the bad men go away?" "Yes," Viktor answered simply. "They will never hurt you again." Leo nodded, accepting this with a child's trust in parental omnipotence. Then he spotted Emma, and his face brightened. "You stayed." "I promised I would," Emma said, moving closer to the pair. Leo looked between them, a sly expression crossing his face that seemed too knowing for his years. "Papa, Emma has to stay with us now, to keep me safe." Viktor raised an eyebrow. "Is that so?" "She saved me," Leo insisted, "and she makes the bad dreams go away." "Leo," Emma began gently, "I have my own home, my own job." "The bad men know where you live," Leo interrupted, his voice trembling. "They'll hurt you because you helped me." Emma's protests died on her lips. The child was right, and they all knew it. Viktor stroked his son's hair. "Let me talk to Miss Hayes, Moy Malish. You go back to bed, and I'll come check on you shortly." After extracting a promise from both adults that they wouldn't disappear while he slept, Leo reluctantly returned to his bedroom. When he was gone, Victor turned to Emma. "He's right," he said simply. "The Castellanos are diminished but not destroyed. They'll look for leverage, for ways to strike at me. You're now a known associate." "I'm a nurse who helped a child," Emma corrected. "Distinctions that mean nothing to men like Salvatore Castellano." Victor's expression was grave. "I can offer protection, Miss Hayes. Security, a new residence, continued employment at my private facility, if you wish." "And in return?" Emma asked, because there was always a price. "In return, you continue what you've already begun helping my son heal." "Not just physically," Victor's voice softened. "Leo hasn't spoken so much since his mother died 3 years ago. He hasn't trusted anyone new. Yet with you, he's different." Emma thought of Leo's bright chatter at dinner, his confidences about his mother, the way he'd reached for her hand in the treatment room. There was a connection there, undeniable and precious. "He needs stability," Victor continued. "A presence in his life that isn't placated by my business." "You're asking me to be what? His nanny? His nurse?" "I'm asking you to be whatever he needs," Victor answered. "And in exchange, I will ensure your safety and comfort for as long as necessary." Emma should refuse. Should walk away from this dangerous man and his complex world. Return to her normal life, her predictable routines. But the image of Leo's face when he'd asked if she would stay rose in her mind. The way he'd clung to her in the bathroom of the coffee shop. The trust he'd placed in her. A stranger who had become, in the space of 24 hours, someone vital to his sense of security. 3 months, Emma said finally. "I'll stay 3 months, help Leo recover, give you time to ensure the Castellanos aren't a threat, then we reassess." Relief flashed across Victor's face, quickly masked. Acceptable terms. He extended his hand to seal the agreement. When Emma took it, his grip was warm and firm, enveloping her smaller hand completely. A current seemed to pass between them, acknowledgement of a connection neither had sought but both now recognized. "Welcome to my world, Emma Hayes," Victor said softly, using her first name for the first time. "I hope you don't come to regret this decision." As she looked into his eyes, blue as Arctic ice but burning with something far warmer, Emma had the distinct feeling that regret would be the least of her concerns in the days to come. 3 months stretched into 6 with the ease of water finding its path. Emma moved through Viktor Sokolov's world with growing confidence, no longer a stranger to its protocols and peculiarities. The private medical facility became her domain. Victor had appointed her director of medical services, overseeing healthcare for his entire organization. It was challenging work that engaged her skills fully, while allowing her to maintain the ethical boundaries she refused to compromise. Leo flourished under her care. His physical wound healed without complication, but the emotional scars required more patience. The nightmares that had plagued him gradually subsided, replaced by an expanding confidence. Emma established routines: school, playtime, dinner together when Victor's schedule allowed that, provided the stability the boy craved. "Higher, Emma, higher." Leo shrieked with delight as Emma pushed him on the swing in the penthouse's private garden. At 7.5, he was all long limbs and boundless energy, so different from the trembling child she'd found in the rain. "Any higher and you'll fly to the moon." Emma laughed, giving another push. "I want to be an astronaut," Leo declared. "Or maybe Papa's job. I haven't decided." Emma's smile faltered. The casual way Leo referenced his father's job still unsettled her, despite months of proximity to Victor's operations. She had maintained careful boundaries, treating injuries without asking their cause, noticing the late-night meetings without inquiring about their purpose. "Being an astronaut sounds amazing," she deflected. "You'd need to study science, mathematics." Leo twisted on the swing to face her. "Papa studied economics." "And other things." His eyes, so like Victor's, regarded her solemnly. "You don't like Papa's work." It wasn't a question. Emma sighed, helping Leo from the swing and leading him to a bench overlooking the city skyline. "It's complicated, Leo. Because sometimes bad things happen to people who break rules." Emma chose her words carefully. "Partly. And because the rules themselves aren't always fair or clear." Leo considered this with the serious concentration he brought to his schoolwork. "Papa says rules are for people who lack strength to make their own way." The words sounded rehearsed, likely repeated verbatim from Victor. Emma felt a familiar unease twist in her stomach. "There's strength in following rules too, Leo. in choosing to do right even when it's difficult. Is that why you help people, even bad ones? I help people because everyone deserves care when they're suffering, Emma explained. It's not my job to judge who's good or bad. Leo leaned against her side, a gesture of affection that had become natural over the months. That's why Papa trusts you. He says you see people as they are, not as what you want them to be. Before Emma could respond to this surprising insight, the garden door opened, and Victor emerged. He wore a charcoal suit that emphasized the breadth of his shoulders, his hair slightly disheveled as if he'd been running his hands through it, a habit Emma had come to recognize as a sign of stress. Papa! Leo launched himself from the bench, running to his father. Victor caught him easily, swinging him into the air. How's my astronaut today? Emma says I need to study science to go to space. Your Emma is very wise, Victor replied, his eyes finding hers over Leo's head. Your Emma. The casual possessive sent a shiver through her that Emma refused to analyze. Their relationship had evolved into something undefined, not quite friendship, certainly not romance, but marked by a mutual respect that occasionally verged on something deeper. Mrs. Petrova has your afternoon snack ready, Victor said, setting Leo down. And I believe your math tutor arrives in 20 minutes. Leo groaned but didn't protest, accustomed to the structured schedule. Will you be home for dinner, Papa? I'll try, Victor promised, the slight reservation in his tone indicating the possibility of disappointment. After Leo disappeared inside, Victor joined Emma on the bench, maintaining a careful distance between them. He seems well today. He is, Emma confirmed. The nightmares have stopped completely. He hasn't mentioned the kidnapping in weeks. Relief softened Victor's features. Because of you. Emma shook her head. Children are resilient. He'd have recovered eventually. Perhaps, but not as fully, not as quickly. Victor turned to face her directly. Your initial agreement was for 3 months. It's been 6. Are you still planning to leave? The question caught Emma off guard, though she'd been expecting it for weeks. Her life had fallen into a pattern that felt both surreal and strangely right. Her apartment maintained but rarely visited. Her old colleagues at County General a distant memory. Her days filled with Leo's boundless energy and the complex operations of Victor's medical facility. I'm not sure, she admitted. Leo still needs consistency. And when he doesn't, when he's fully recovered, confident again? Emma met his gaze directly. Are you asking me to leave, Victor? No. The word hung between them, loaded with implications neither seemed ready to address. I'm asking what you want, Emma, beyond obligation to my son. What did she want? The question had haunted her late at night, when the penthouse fell silent, and she found herself staring at the city lights, wondering how she had come to this crossroads. Before she could formulate a response, Victor's phone vibrated. His expression darkened as he read the message. Business? Emma asked, the word having become their shorthand for his less legitimate operations. Victor nodded, already rising. The Castellanos have become restless again. Emma's heart rate quickened. In the months since Leo's kidnapping, Victor had systematically dismantled much of the Castellano operation. Salvatore, the patriarch, had retreated to Sicily, leaving his son Marco to salvage what remained of their American interests. Is there danger? She asked. Not to you or Leo, Victor assured her, his tone hardening. I've ensured that. Emma stood as well, suddenly unwilling to let him walk away into whatever violence awaited. Victor, he turned, one eyebrow raised in question. Be careful, she finished lamely, the words inadequate for the complex emotions behind them. Something softened in his expression. He stepped closer, close enough that she could detect the subtle notes of his cologne, the warmth radiating from his body. His hand rose, hesitated, then gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the first deliberate touch he'd initiated outside the context of Leo. We'll finish this conversation, he promised, his voice low. Tonight. Then he was gone, leaving Emma with the phantom sensation of his fingers against her skin and the unsettling realization that she was being afraid not of him, but for him. The evening stretched endlessly. Emma maintained Leo's routine dinner, bath, story time, while trying to ignore the growing unease that twisted in her stomach. Victor had missed dinner without calling, unusual for him even on business days. After tucking Leo into bed, Emma retreated to the living room, unable to settle. She tried reading, then reviewing patient files from the clinic. but her concentration kept fracturing. At midnight, she abandoned the pretense of distraction and went to the windows, searching the city skyline as if it might offer answers. The elevator's soft chime nearly stopped her heart. She turned, relief washing over her as Victor stepped into the penthouse, relief that curdled into dread when she saw his face. "What happened?" she asked, moving toward him without conscious thought. Victor's expression was carved from stone, only his eyes betraying the storm beneath. Marco Castellano made a final mistake. The clinical part of Emma's brain noted the blood spatter on his shirt cuff, the way he held his left arm slightly rigid. "You're hurt. It's nothing. Let me see." Her nurse's tone, the one that brooked no argument from even the most difficult patients, slipped out automatically. A ghost of a smile touched Victor's lips. "Doctor's orders?" "Exactly." In his private study, Emma examined the knife wound that scored his upper arm deep enough to require stitches, but not life-threatening. She worked in silence, cleaning the wound with practiced efficiency, using supplies from the medical kit Victor kept in his desk. "The Castellano thread is finished," Victor said as she prepared to suture. "Permanently." Emma's hands stilled momentarily. She didn't ask what permanently meant. "Didn't need to. And you? Will there be repercussions?" "Nothing I haven't prepared for." Victor watched her work, his gaze intense. "You're not asking for details. Would you tell me if I did?" "Perhaps. Would you want a dyer?" Emma considered as she placed the first stitch. "I think there are some things I'm better not knowing. Yet you stay," Victor observed. "In a world built on things you'd rather not know." The statement hung between them as Emma continued her meticulous work. When she spoke again, her voice was soft but firm. "I stay because of Leo. Because despite everything, I believe you're trying to protect him, give him a better future." She tied off the final stitch. "And maybe because I've seen enough darkness in my work to know it exists everywhere, not just in your world." Victor caught her hand as she applied the bandage, his grip gentle but insistent. "And is that all? Just Leo?" Emma's pulse quickened. 6 months of careful distance, of professional boundaries maintained, despite the undercurrent that had flowed between them since that first day in the coffee shop. 6 months of watching him with his son, glimpsing the man beneath the dangerous exterior. "No," she admitted finally, "not just Leo." Victor's other hand rose to cup her cheek, his thumb tracing her lower lip with exquisite gentleness. "I have tried to keep you separate from my darkness, Emma. To preserve what makes you different. I'm not some fragile thing that needs protection, Victor." "No, you're not fragile," he agreed, his voice dropping to something like reverence. "You're extraordinary." The kiss, when it came, felt inevitable, a culmination of months of unspoken tension. Victor's lips were surprisingly soft against hers, the kiss controlled yet edged with a hunger that made Emma's knees weaken. She leaned into him, mindful of his injury yet unable to maintain distance. When they broke apart, Victor rested his forehead against hers. "I have wanted to do that since I saw you standing in that coffee shop, disheveled and defiant, having saved my son with nothing but courage and kindness." Emma smiled, her hands resting against his chest where she could feel his heartbeat. "I thought you were terrifying." "I am terrifying," he corrected. "Just not to you, it seems. Not to me." She agreed. The moment stretched between them, fragile and precious. Then Victor stepped back, maintaining contact with her hand but creating space for clarity. "I need you to understand what accepting me would mean," he said, his tone grave. "My world has rules of its own, boundaries that cannot be crossed. There are parts of my business that will always remain separate from you and Leo." "I know," Emma said. "I've always known. And yet you're still here." Emma took a deep breath, finally articulating the truth she'd been circling for months. "I'm here because despite everything, despite the violence and the danger and the things I don't ask about, I see you, Victor. Not just the criminal, not just the businessman. I see the father who reads bedtime stories in funny voices, the man who remembers every detail about his employees' families, who built a medical facility that treats everyone, regardless of their ability to pay." Victor's expression was raw, stripped of its usual careful control. "And if that isn't enough? If the darkness eventually outweighs everything else? Then I'll still be here," Emma said simply, "reminding you of the light." Victor pulled her close again, his kiss deeper this time, edged with a desperation that spoke of a man who had never expected redemption. never thought himself worthy of the kind of love that demanded nothing in return. When they finally parted, Victor's phone vibrated. He glanced at it, his expression shifting back to business. "Alexi is downstairs with news about the Castellanos situation," he said. "I need to go," Emma finished for him. "I understand." Victor hesitated, then pressed one more kiss to her lips. "Tomorrow," he promised. "We'll talk about what comes next." After he left, Emma returned to the window, watching the city lights with new eyes. She had made her choice, stepped fully into Victor, Sokolov's world with open eyes. Whatever came next, danger, darkness, joy, love, she would face it standing beside him and Leo, creating a family from the most unlikely beginnings. The morning brought change in the form of a phone call that sent Victor's security team into high alert. Emma was helping Leo with breakfast when Alexei appeared in the doorway, his expression grave. "Miss Hayes, Mr. Sokolov requests your presence in his study immediately." Leo looked up, alarmed by the tension in Alexei's voice. "Is Papa okay?" "Your father is fine, Leo," Emma assured him, though uncertainty gnawed at her. "Finish your breakfast. I'll be back soon." In Victor's study, she found him surrounded by his top lieutenants, the atmosphere electric with barely contained energy. When he saw her, Victor dismissed the others with a gesture. As they filed out, he crossed to her, taking her hands in his. "What's happening?" Emma asked. "Marco Castellano wasn't working alone," Victor explained, his voice tight with controlled rage. "He had a federal handler, an FBI agent using the Castellanos to build a case against me." Emma's blood ran cold. "And now? Now that agent has gone rogue. He blames me for Marco's death, wants revenge rather than justice." Victor's grip tightened. "He's made threats. Against Leo. Against you. The FBI knows about me?" The implications were staggering. Her connection to Victor could be construed as criminal association, her medical work for his organization as conspiracy. "Not officially. This is personal for him." Victor's expression was grimmer than she'd ever seen it. "I'm sending you and Leo away, temporarily. Until I can resolve this." "Away where?" "I have a property in Switzerland. Remote, secure. Alexei will accompany you." "And you?" Emma asked, already knowing the answer. "I need to end this, permanently." Emma pulled her hands from his, sudden anger flaring. "So you're sending us away while you kill an FBI agent? Start a war with the federal government? How does that end, Victor?" "It ends with you and Leo safe," he replied, voice hardening. "That's all that matters." "It's not all that matters, and you know it." Emma stepped closer, refusing to be intimidated by the dangerous energy radiating from him. "What about after? Do we live our lives looking over our shoulders? Does Leo grow up without his father because you're in prison, or worse?" Victor's jaw clenched. "What would you have me do? Allow this threat to hang over us? Over Leo? I want you to consider that there might be another way, one that doesn't end with more blood. There is no other way. Not in my world." Emma took a deep breath, centering herself. "Then maybe it's time to consider leaving your world behind." Victor stared at her as if she'd spoken in an alien language. "What? You have legitimate businesses, resources overseas. We could leave you, me, Leo, start over somewhere the past can't follow." "Run!" The word emerged like poison. "I don't run. I've spent my life building this empire. And what has it cost you? Your wife? Nearly your son? How much more are you willing to sacrifice?" Victor turned away, moving to the window that overlooked his domain, the city where his influence reached into every corner. "You don't understand what you're asking. I'm asking you to choose, Victor. Your empire or your family." The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken history, with the weight of decisions that couldn't be unmade. When Victor finally turned back to her, his expression was unreadable. "Pack only essentials," he said finally. "The jet leaves at noon." Emma felt her heart sink. "And you?" "I'll join you when it's safe." It was a deflection, not an answer. Emma recognized the strategy from months of navigating his world. "Victor, please, Emma." His voice gentled, a rare vulnerability showing through. "Let me protect you both the only way I know how." She wanted to argue, to push, but the plea in his eyes stopped her. "Promise me you'll be careful, that you'll consider what I said." Victor crossed to her again, cupping her face in his hands. I promise I will try to find a way back to you and Leo, no matter what it takes." The kiss he pressed to her lips felt like a goodbye. 3 days in the Swiss chalet passed in a blur of anxiety and uncertainty. Leo adjusted with surprising resilience, enchanted by the snow-covered mountains and the promise of skiing lessons. Emma maintained a brave face for his sake, but inside, dread coiled like a serpent. Victor called daily, brief conversations that revealed nothing about what was happening in New York. His voice was controlled, professional, so different from the man who had held her the night before they left. On the 4th morning, Emma woke to commotion downstairs. She found Alexei on the phone, his expression grave as he spoke rapid Russian. "What's happening?" she demanded when he ended the call. "Mr. Sokolov is coming." "Alexei," I said, something like respect crossing his features as he looked at her. "He's bringing a federal prosecutor. They're negotiating terms." Emma's heart stuttered. "Terms for what?" "Immunity, in exchange for information about corruption within the Bureau and several crime families." Alexei's expression was complex: conflict, resignation, something like hope. "He's trading his empire for a new life." "When?" "They land in 2 hours." Emma stood frozen, disbelieving. Victor was choosing them, choosing a future over his past. The enormity of the sacrifice left her breathless. The meeting took place in the chalet's study. Emma and Leo banished to the upper floor, while Victor negotiated with the stern-faced woman who had arrived with a team of Swiss officials. Hours passed, tension building in Emma's chest until she thought she might shatter from it. When Victor finally appeared in the doorway of Leo's bedroom, his face was lined with exhaustion, but strangely peaceful. "Papa!" Leo launched himself into his father's arms. "Are you staying? Can we go skiing?" Victor held his son close, eyes closing briefly as if memorizing the moment. "Yes to both, moi malish. But first, I need to speak with Emma." After settling Leo with a movie, Victor led Emma to the master bedroom, closing the door behind them. "It's done," he said simply. "I've agreed to testify against several corrupt officials and provide evidence on operations that don't directly implicate me or my closest people." Emma searched his face, looking for regret, for resentment. Found none. "What happens now?" "Witness protection, initially. Then, when the trials are complete, freedom to start over. New identities, new location anywhere we choose." Victor took her hands. "If that's still what you want. If I want to be with you and Leo?" Emma shook her head, wondering at his uncertainty. "Victor, that's all I've wanted since I found a little boy in the rain, and his father showed me who he truly was beneath all the fawn." Darkness. Relief washed over his features, the last of his formidable control crumbling as he pulled her into his arms. "I thought I might lose you. That once you understood the full extent of what I was giving up, you'd see me differently." Emma leaned back to look into his eyes. "I see you exactly as you are, Victor Sokolov. A man who built an empire on broken rules, but who loves his son enough to leave it all behind. A man capable of violence and tenderness in equal measure. A man I've fallen in love with, despite every rational argument against it." Victor's breath caught. "You love me?" "Against all better judgment," Emma confirmed with a smile. "God help me, I do." His kiss was different this time, unhurried, tender. The kiss of a man who suddenly had a future stretching before him rather than ghosts at his back. When they parted, Victor pressed his forehead to hers. "We won't have everything we're used to. The wealth, the power, most of it stays behind. Do I look like someone who cares about designer clothes and private jets?" Emma teased gently. Victor's answering smile transformed his face, shedding years of hardened defenses. "No, you look like someone who found a bleeding child in the rain and risked everything to protect him. Like someone who sees beyond surfaces to what matters." "And what matters now?" Emma asked, needing to hear him say it. "Leo," he answered immediately. "You. The life we'll build together, wherever that may be." His hands framed her face. "I never thought I could walk away from what I built. Never thought anything could matter more. You showed me differently." A soft knock interrupted them. They turned to find Leo in the doorway, hesitant but determined. "Papa, are you and Emma going to get married now?" Victor laughed, a sound so rare and beautiful it made Emma's heart squeeze. "That's a conversation for another day, little one." But his eyes, when they met Emma's, held a question, a promise of someday, when the past was truly behind them and the future secured. "I think," Emma said, holding out her hand to Leo while maintaining Victor's gaze. That we're going to be a family. The how and when will work itself out. Leo beamed, burrowing between them as Victor's arm encircled them both. Outside, snow began to fall, covering the mountains in pristine white, a clean slate, a new beginning. Emma thought of the night she'd found Leo, how a simple act of kindness had altered the course of 3 lives, how love had grown in the most unlikely soil, between a nurse with an unyielding moral compass and a criminal who had discovered there were things more valuable than power. So we're staying together? Leo asked, looking up at them both with Victor's blue eyes. Victor's gaze met Emma's over their son's head, a silent exchange of everything they'd been through, everything that lay ahead, the challenges of starting over, of building a life from the ashes of an empire, the legacy of violence that would never entirely fade, the love that had somehow flourished amid danger and darkness. Yes, Victor answered, the word both promise and vow. We're staying together. Always. In that moment, surrounded by the 2 people who had crashed into her life and transformed it completely, Emma knew that some salvations came in unexpected forms. Sometimes, it took finding a bleeding child in the rain to discover the heart's true home, even if that home existed in the shadow of a fallen empire. With a man whose darkness would never fully fade, but whose love shone brighter than any danger that might follow. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.